Everyone, Jerisha Hawk here. I am a income strategist, business coach, and creator of a signature program called Services That Sell, where we teach online coaches, consultants, freelancers how to create a four-figure offer and sell it consistently. And I'm not sure about you guys, but it's getting close to the end of the year here, and I am really trying to prepare myself for 2019. And what that looks like for me is looking back at the year, setting goals for the new year, creating my intentions for the year to come. But outside of just setting my personal goals and my financial goals and my business goals, which I think a lot of us are probably accustomed to doing, in the sense of, we need to set our new goals and our new aims and our new target for the year. And I've done a few Facebook Lives and a couple podcast episodes about how I do my 2019 business planning and personal planning. But one thing that I spent all of this morning on was getting very, very clear about my financials. And what I mean by that is getting very clear and understanding what my income looked like, what my business financials looked like, look at my profit margins, really understanding like the CFO part of my business, right? Like the financial aspect of my business. And one thing that I have noticed working with the dozens and hundreds of clients that we have worked with, either one-on-one or through Services That Sell, is by how few business owners have the baseline understanding of financial acumen for them to effectively run and operate their business. And I wanted to just hop on really quickly and do a Facebook Live about it, because I think this is so often, I think when we are in, especially in the online space, we see all these coaches and consultants and online courses and coaching programs and masterminds where these individuals are typically teaching you one aspect of business, how to sell using webinars or how to set up a sales funnel. Like, they're teaching these elements of how to generate revenue in your business, which is important and which is really, really, like, you need to know how to do that. If you don't know how to generate revenue, there's no revenue for you to manage. So maybe this doesn't matter, but I think it's really important. This is something that I'm a big advocate on for all of our students that go through any of my programs, is that we don't just teach you how to make money, but we also teach you how to understand your financials and how to be more empowered as a business owner by knowing those metrics and knowing those numbers. I'm all about sustainability and building a business that you can manage and maintain for the long term. You can't do either of those things if I just teach you how to make money, right? It's important for you to also understand how do I understand my numbers? How do I understand what levers I need to be pulling in my business? And that all goes back to you having a base level of financial acumen. So as I was sitting here this morning, going through all of my numbers for 2018, and really trying to put together what my tax strategy is going to be for 2019, I'm like, I need to hop on and do a live stream, I think, because I do not know. I just feel like this is probably going to be a value add to somebody who would jump on and listen. So I'm curious to just know how confident, maybe that's the answer, 1 through 10. 1 being like not confident at all, 10 being like, girl, I'm on my stuff, P's and Q's, I got all my numbers together. Do you feel about your business financials? On a scale of 1 to 10, just pop in a number of where you fall in that range of how confident you currently feel about your revenue, your expenses, your profit margins, and IRS tax time. Like, how confident do you feel about your business financials as a whole? Scale 1 being, girl, not confident at all, I have no idea how much money I even made this year, to 10 being, you got it all together. Just pop in a number in the comments and let me know. There's no judgment whatsoever. But the biggest things I want you guys to make sure that as you guys are finishing out the year and setting goals for the new year and preparing for the next year, that you're also preparing the time to actually look at your financials. And the first thing that you do need to understand, which I feel like is a given, but I know everybody does not do this, is that you need to look at all of your revenue. And what I mean by that is, how much money have you brought into the business? And for some of you guys who are still working full time and you're juggling your 9 to 5 and your business, you need to make sure that you need to separate those 2 income streams. Your 9 to 5 is 1 income stream that has nothing to do with your business. How much revenue have you generated from the products and services you have sold in your business? And you need to know what that grand total number is of all the revenue that was brought in. Maybe it was from one-on-one coaching. Maybe it was from, strategy sessions. Maybe it was from an ebook that you sold or a digital course that you sold, or affiliate income that you brought in. Whatever it is, what are all, like, list out what all the different types of revenue streams you had were, So literally line item out, like if you had affiliate income coming from Zoom and affiliate income coming from Acuity Scheduling and affiliate income from Dipsado, then a strategy session, like all the different types of revenue sources that you had, list them all out and total up how much revenue each one of those revenue sources created. This is really important for you to know because this will give you an insight in regards to where you're actually generating the most revenue in your business. We had a student who recently joined Services That Sell, who also attended my Breakthrough 2019 workshop, which is where she got her aha moment from this, is that she was so focused on an ideal client base, a target market, that she was making money in, but it was exhausting her. And she thought, when she looked at her profit margins, she realized that she needed to be focusing her attention on a different target market because it was more profitable for her to do that. And if you don't know your numbers and if you're not paying attention to your numbers, it's hard for you to make really strategic decisions on how you're going to continue to grow and evolve your business. So first thing is first is you need to look at your revenue. Like, what is your total revenue for the year? But also write down all the different revenue sources that you had and how much revenue did you generate from each. Because this will, like I said, give you at least some insight to start looking at what your profit margins were and where you actually made the bulk of your income. After you look at your revenue, you need to understand your expenses. And this is something that people get very confused about, which I think is odd because it's like expenses are any money spent in and on the business. So this is all of your software, your tools, any technology that you're using. If you're using, Active Campaign or a paid version of ConvertKit, or I'm trying to think of tools that we use right now. I use the paid version of Canva. Like any tools or software that you pay, whether it's subscription or yearly or a one-time fee, write down that total. Then write down the total for your team. And when I say team, I mean any contractors, freelancers, any ongoing or one-time project-based support that you hired. You need to know what your team cost is. Then you need to look at your training, coaching, and courses. This is like, how much are you spending on external education, whether it's you buying a program, purchasing a book, buying a course on Udemy, and hiring a coach, hiring a consultant, any training that you did, attending a conference, any training that you did, coaches or courses that you took, you need to know that expense for that. Any money you spent on travel, so flights to that conference, Uber rides around town for that specific event, or maybe when you were hosting a VIP client, you need to know what your travel cost is. Travel from flights, rides, hotels, and food. Food and entertainment is another category that you can write off a percentage of that, but you need to know how much you actually spent in your business on food. So if you took a client out to dinner, that meal, or if you're attending a conference and you were eating lunch at the conference, you had to pay for it. What are those expenses? And I think something that is also important for you to be aware of that you may not be doing is paying attention to this is a different one, but your processing fees, right? All of us are probably using Stripe. I hope you're not using PayPal for a vast majority of your business, but any payment processing software is charging you a fee. Typically around 3% is pretty normal. So what is the total cost for the fees? And this is something that you don't freak out about. Like, don't try to start collecting payments on Venmo or Cash App. It's just an expense in your business, but it's something that you can write off. So you need to know what your expenses are for all of your fees that you are paying for your bank accounts or ATMs or, like I said, your payment processing. I know something that people tend to forget about including, domain hosting is something to include. If you're paying for Facebook ads, like literally any money you are spending to run and operate your business, you need to be itemizing what that is out and then also knowing what that grand total is. I think another thing that's important for you to pay attention to is how much are you paying yourself? And I know when I asked this question recently inside of Services That Sell, there's so many students who are not paying themselves. And I think regardless if you're making, $5,000 or if you're making $500,000, whatever you pay yourself, meaning what you're taking out, if you earned revenue from your business and you're taking that money that you made from your business to pay your bills, that's you paying yourself. Or if you take the money that you use from what you earn in your business to pay off your debt, or to pay for your daughter's birthday party, or to give money to your grandma, that's all salary. And I just think it's very important that you don't muddle the two. When you decide that you're running a business, that this is just not just new free money that just, you know, you worked for, which you did, but this is not just free money for you to use. Well, you can use it how you want, but you need to make sure that you're allocating it and tracking it correctly, that you're not just muddying the waters. Because I did ask somebody on our Breakthrough 2019 workshop, how much did you pay yourself? And she said nothing. But then she said she had no money left over. I'm like, well, where did all the money go? She's like, to pay off my debt. I'm like, that's you paying yourself. So make sure that you also are accounting for how much you paid yourself, or maybe you didn't pay yourself. But after we've looked at all of your revenue, look at what all of your expenses are in every aspect. So I like to itemize it out from like software, you know, team, and staff, contractors and staff, domain hosting, what I spend on ads, supplies, travel, meals, processing fees, salary, and then training, coaches, courses, that type of thing. So once you know your total revenue and once you know your total expenses, this will give you a range of what your profit margins are, right? Because if you divide the two, you'll see what the gap is, and that'll be your profit margin in the sense of how profitable was your business outside of expenses. But something else that is really important, which I've seen far too many of my peers get caught up in this, is when it's time to pay the tax bill. You know, as a business owner, it's, you know, especially if you're a sole proprietor business, you know, sole proprietor LLC, you're responsible for, like, with every dollar you make, it's not just a dollar you made. Like, part of that has to go to pay the IRS, pay Uncle Sam, pay for the roads and the policemen and the firefighters out here, to pay for taxes. And more often than not, many people are not putting money away to allocate for their taxes on a consistent basis or at all. So either they're not filing taxes for their business, or when it comes time to file their taxes, they are shocked and stunned by what the tax bill is. And then maybe you end up getting yourself into a payment plan with the IRS. And my whole goal is how to make sure that you are empowered by knowing your financial numbers, so you don't come as a surprise when it comes down to tax time. So a book that I love and I highly, highly, highly recommend for you guys to check out if you're new in your business or just not very confident when it comes to your numbers is Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. This is a mandatory reading that we put in our programs for all of our students, but it's a really phenomenal book to help you get a better understanding of how your cash flow operates and how to make sure that you're adequately allocating funds accordingly based off of where you're at revenue-wise in your business. But it's a really good starting point. I say anybody making less than 6 figures, you need to read this book. But Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. But something else you need to think about is how much are you putting money away for taxes? And are you going to be able to pay that tax bill if you actually owe money after you look through all of your expenses and your revenue and all of that? So I just think it's really important for you to know those two numbers, like we just mentioned, your total revenue and then your revenue by product source, and then your total expenses and your expenses by category as well. That will allow you to make more informed decisions. And like I said, give you insight on what your profit margins are. But also, like, you need to be knowing how much you're, like, have an idea or at least a plan in place to make sure that you're prepared for when tax time comes, because the IRS is real. And I know that's like one of my greatest fears is like, that's one, Uncle Sam is one man I ain't playing with. I ain't got time to be, no, I'm just not playing with that one. So you need to be making sure that when you're thinking about your revenue and thinking about your business expenses, that you're also factoring in what your taxes will be. So make sure that you're putting that money away or that you have that cash flow in the bank account to be able to cover that bill. So those are 3 things I just want you guys to be thinking of. Like I said, I recommended the book Profit First to help you start allocating those things. But like literally, I track all of my stuff in a spreadsheet. I really love looking at my numbers and knowing my numbers because it allows me to make better decisions as a business owner in regards to what offers we need to focus on selling, what offers we don't need to be selling, what offers we need to cut, what offers we need to go all in on, things like that. But it's just like I mentioned, if you like, this does not need to be some fancy thing, but it is something that you need to be doing. So spend the next 3 or 6 hours at some point between now and the end of the year going through your numbers. Like I said, all the revenue, all the expenses, and I'd recommend reading Profit First to give you a better understanding of what your tax allocation might be, just so you can start planning for that. And if you need help or assistance One, I invite you to join my Facebook group, Selling Signature Services. The link is in the title of this and also in the comments. But we have tons of CPAs and financial advisors and money mindset people and accountants who are in our Facebook group. If you do not feel confident in this area, this is something that you may need to outsource in your business, or just to get a better understanding of. There's tons of people in our Facebook group who, you would be able to connect with and potentially hire for services to help in that area if you don't know where to go, who understand this online space. But I just really want you guys to make sure that you know your revenue, that you know your expenses, and that you look at your profit margins so you can start, have at least a baseline understanding of where your business is right now. So I'm just sharing that little. That's what I spent this morning working on, finishing out the year, looking at the numbers for the year and setting projections for Q1 from a financial and like KPIs, key performance indicators and metric standpoint. That's what I spent my morning doing. And then spent this afternoon on the call with my new accountant, which I'm super excited about, to make sure that I'm setting myself up for success, to pay for taxes come Q1, but to also make sure that I had the right tax strategy in place for, that best, puts me in the best position going into 2019. And I just want to make sure that you guys are doing the same. So I hope this was helpful. If you have more questions, like I said, need more support, join us over in my Facebook group and ask any questions that you guys have in there. And I will talk to you guys soon. Bye, y'all.